All right. So let me share my screen.
What's happening? Why you cannot minimize Zoom when you are recording this video? Okay. 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 Good morning, Dr. Raj. Thank you. Today we are doing back-to-back videos. So today, this is the second video, and the second video is about an extremely important and a topic that is not taken seriously by a lot of immigrants, a lot of foreign graduates who are coming to Canada. And this topic is volunteer, being a volunteer and doing voluntary work in Canada. Most of the people, Dr. Raj, who contact me, they always ask me, while we are in Canada, what are the things besides their professional pathway or professional career they should adopt? So to answer that question, we did a previous video about jobs in Canada, in which I think you did a very good job. We did a good job where we made a summary of jobs that they can undertake. Similarly, this is a similar topic in continuation of their jobs in Canada and parallel pathways to their professional career, which is called voluntary work. And people should not underestimate the significance of voluntary work, because when we apply a job to an organization and a job to a multinational company or any place, they tend to see the all round or 360 dynamics of their applicant. In which conditions can they survive, and what are the things they can do, and what are the things they can adapt to. And voluntary work does not only represents you in a sense of someone who is very high in moral standings or high in integrity, because nobody would want to work for free. The reason why you are working for free, or the reason why you are giving your time to community, is because you are empathetic. You want to make change to our community. You want to make a difference. And the reasons why developed nations are ahead of a developing country, because of their moral standards, because of their integrity, and because they give importance to other people, and they want to raise the standard of living of others by taking equal responsibility. So even though a lot of international medical graduates, they are undereducated or not well informed in this issue. So through this video, we would like to educate them, help them, and to get better sense of this topic. So thank you for taking the initiative of educating us more, since you are already in this field and you have been very active in voluntary work, Dr. Raj. So please start.
Hello, thank you. Screen.
Oh yeah, sure. My apologies.
Okay, so yeah. So yes, for sure, like you mentioned there, volunteer work is very important in Canada. I would say in anywhere, like if you are interested. It's not just good for your community, but it's also good for you for a number of reasons that we'll talk later on this video. So, okay. So like you said, so it's a time that you give to your community or your other. So everyone knows time is very important thing we have, right?
Absolutely.
So
No other question about it. Yes.
so that's like when you give your time to someone, it's important for your community or someone else. It doesn't really matter whom you're giving to it. It's your time. You can decide who do you want to give it to. So we have a lot of opportunities, volunteer opportunities in Canada. I'm not sure about any other country, but in Canada, there's a lot of opportunities. So you can select anything that suits your interest or your situation, whatever, however you like. So there's a different types of volunteers. Some people do volunteer from home, others do it from another. Some people just do it in summer only. It's pretty much personal choice. Okay. So duration of volunteer varies, and sometimes like some of the volunteers just like once a week, some is every other day, some is every day. Some volunteers are like once a month. Sometimes you have options like they will send you noticing that, oh, are you interested to do this volunteer or run this campaign, then you can apply or not. So it depends like what kind of organizations you're involved with. So all right. Okay, so here are some advantage of volunteers. So A gives you experience. For example, you're a newcomer to Canada, you don't have any Canadian experience. So you can get a volunteer job, you have a Canadian experience on your resume. That's important part.
So Dr. Raj,
You
let
learn
me
new.
interrupt. Let me interrupt you there for a second. Are you saying that if we do not necessarily have to do observerships, or we do not have to do the clinical rotations, we can even volunteer in a hospital, and that would be considered as a equivalent Canadian experience?
Yes, it will be considered a Canadian experience, but you gotta understand that observerships are different.
Okay.
Observerships are more clinical based. They are medical, Canadian medical experience, right?
Okay.
A volunteer means experience. It does not mean that it's a medical experience.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
difference there. But definitely Canadian experience for sure. So you learn new skills, you become a part of a community. That way you can make a networking connections, right? This way you can stay active in your community. So we become less stress, anxiety, social isolation. These things are reduced when you're involved in something like volunteering, for example. So these are a few advantages of the volunteering. So finding an volunteer opportunity, it pretty much depends upon your interests and where you live. So it varies. There's a lot of them. So this is something I have done. So for me, I work with the Canadian Red Cross. I'm one of their audit team supervisor. So I'm on call 24/7. So which means I have people working for me. Whenever they have questions, they can just give me a call or send me an email, and I follow up with that. And then the people who are our added members or volunteers, most of them they work like 1 week after 7 weeks. That's their volunteer schedule.
Oh, okay.
So 7 days or 1 week after 7 weeks or 1 week after 5 weeks, depends on like however they want to organize their schedule. So that's their time they are giving to us. Well, once they're on call for 7 days, they stay on call 7 days, 24/7, according to the need. Okay. I used to work with the project Adults Literacy Program. I was one of their math tutor. So what they did was it was like they would teach math or English or computer skills to someone who's adult or someone who has so what I used to do was to teach math once a week, 2 to 3 hours. So we used to have a like really fixed schedule with that person. So that's another way of volunteering. I did have a volunteer experience in a like hospital too, Brampton Civic Hospital in Canada. So I had a three different positions there. I used to work in the main lobby, which is where you get to meet people who are coming to see doctors in the hospital. You like tell them where they should be going or heading and stuff like that, pretty much helping around that stuff. And connections too. And like this, the Canadian Red Cross, I do it from home. The pause, I used to do it on Zoom, But the Brampton Civic Hospital one, you actually have to go to that hospital because you cannot do that from home, right?
Yeah.
So in the emergency connections, I used to work there as a volunteer. So my main job was like a coordinator between patients and nurses. So I will see like who waiting area, see if there needs changes, see if someone needs an urgent care, see if someone has questions they want to get answered, and pretty much stuff like that. So it's a lot of different things. Every day is different. So you do learn a lot of things there, like how people approach to doctors in Canada, how doctors approach and stuff like that. So it's good experience to get familiar with the Canadian healthcare system. So that's good volunteering in hospital. So this is where you also make connections. Like I said, you need a reference. These people do give you reference and stuff like that. But so I like volunteering, honestly. It's just like giving something back to your community. At the same time, you're doing something for yourself too, right? So yeah,
Dr. Raj, if I may ask one question here. Let's just say, inshallah, you get matched and soon you'll be applying for your comms. Would Brampton Hospital would be one of your aims or the looking at the residency? And do you think you would apply to Brampton, and if you give a reference and they see your resume, do you think you would be preferred in this hospital considering you have done voluntary work in this hospital?
well, it will. I'm not sure if I will get the position. Obviously, there's not just one factor, right? There's a number of factors. But me being there, being familiar with that hospital is definitely something they will, it's not, definitely they will see that on my resume, right? For sure.
Okay, I get
So,
your point. I definitely get it. This is exactly what I feel as well, but I just
yeah,
wanted it to come from you. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, like it's something, it's there. So they know that I'm familiar with that place. They don't know, they know what I'm, like I know that I'm from that area, I'm from that community. They know that. So they know that I have a better chance of succeeding there if instead of a person who has a say everything else is similar with someone else, but they're not from that community.
yeah.
So like it doesn't, their criteria is like if you ask them how do you select a resident for your residency program, they will usually say something like that, depends, we are looking for best fit for us.
Wow. Okay, best fit. Okay, yeah.
So that's how they usually describe. They will never tell you this much how many scores you should have. They will never tell you what experience you should have.
Okay,
They
okay,
will just say best fit for us.
okay.
So you have to be a best fit for certain community.
And I'm sure that this criteria of you being having worked at the place would put you in the best fit because you already have been working there.
Yeah, you're part of that community, right? So
Yeah.
you know those
Yes.
people, you know how to approach them. So yeah, you do have something there more than maybe other candidate. But then again,
Indeed.
this is just not one thing, right? You have to be
Indeed.
best fit in everything.
Indeed. Yes. Agreed.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Of the information I have on volunteering.
Okay. Oh, makes sense. Perfect. So, and would you mind giving any resources? What is the best way to find or the platforms or search engines? I know we can Google, but are there any, just on your fingertips, anything that comes to your mind when looking for like voluntary jobs? And I have two questions. One, how do we quickly find some good voluntary work? Number two, Dr. Raj, I know a lot of IMGs, when they newly arrive in Canada, it can be extremely difficult for them to look for voluntary work because they are already financially constrained and they just want to make their ends meet and save as much as they can, because some of them still need to write their NACOSKIs, or some of them haven't even written their QE1. They are just there on their PR and they're already trying to make ends meet. So how did you go through the same situation, and how do we cope in this condition? Please, these two questions.
I would say first, let's see where you can find a volunteer. So every organization, doesn't matter which organization, it could be gardening, it could be hospital. Most of these things, these organizations have a volunteer department.
Okay, okay. This is totally a new thing to me, because here where I'm from, they do not, every institution do not have. Usually you have to look at certain sections or sectors, but it's good to know. And news for me,
Yeah,
definitely. Okay,
most of every, like even if I put a any hospital or Alberta Health Services, I just put Alberta Health Services and then search volunteer in there, they will direct me to their volunteer department.
okay.
So every Canadian Red Cross has a volunteer department, Brampton Civic Hospital has a volunteer department. Even I have seen, I was in Canada, even in your high school, if you want to graduate from high school in Canada, you must do 40-hour volunteer work. If you don't have
Wow.
a 40-hour volunteer work, they will not let you graduate from high school.
Interesting. The thing that's really interesting for me is you are saying these organizations have a designated volunteering department, which is a very new thing for me. Usually here we do have voluntary work. People
Mhm.
do a lot of voluntary work, but that is within an department or within an organization on mutual terms. They do not, I have not come across a designated department which is only for voluntary work, which is great, I must say.
It's just a way of regulating volunteers, right? And at the same time, giving opportunity to everyone. So volunteer department. So when you're going for a volunteer position, you're just going the same way you're applying for a job. So
Okay.
it's pretty much similar. They will
So,
see your
do they
resume.
do some background check on you, or do they go through your past experiences? What if this person is not worthy of doing this voluntary work, or anybody who comes can get a voluntary work? How does this work?
It's not as strict as a job, because with the jobs there's more competition. That's for sure, right? But at the same time, they do check. So like if you were like I was working with the disabled people, so they do check your background. So they will ask for your license, driver's license, background information for past 5 years. They will do a criminal check on you, all that stuff, because you're working with the vulnerable community, right? They want to make
Ah,
sure that vulnerable community is safe.
absolutely, yes, yes, yes.
And countries like in Canada, if you have done one thing, or there's one criminal or something on your police record, getting job is dream only. You won't be able to
Wow,
get volunteer work.
wow. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. That is something big thing, I must say. Okay.
very important to, yeah, it's very important to have like safe, I don't know, stay within your limits, I would say.
All right.
Keep your
Okay, good
record
to know.
clean.
Good to know. Good to know for all the people who are aspiring to come to Canada, that how important your character is and how you speak and what you say is everything matters. You cannot just give your, they say political statements. You say one thing one time and that is just political. So at the present time, you are saying something else.
Yeah, I think that could be considered as a freedom of speech, so that probably not be an issue, but something bit more like than that.
Okay. Okay.
So like being, for example, you
Because
slapped a
Dr. Raj,
kid
I mean, one thing is extremely important. The other day,
and you have
I was just reading article from UK. One of the doctors who was a GP who called her supervisor and requested for a laptop. And then that person ended up calling the IT department, telling that her boss informed her she will get a laptop. And then the IT person spoke to the boss, and boss said nothing like this happened. And the gist of it is the GP ended up getting fired from the job. Not only fired, but the person was, I think, penalized as a convict, that there was some serious action taken against. So
I'm not sure.
this
I don't
is,
know about that situation.
it was mind blown that how come a small thing, just different or maybe misunderstanding can have such criminal actions upon you. This is just the gist of it. I read it a while back. So I'm pretty
Like
much, I
I
think
don't have
this,
much
yeah,
I don't have much knowledge about that, but I knew there was a situation a few years back, and that was one of the medical resident. She was drunk. She was screaming at people in middle of a street. That got caught on a street camera, and then she was terminated the next day
wow,
because of her unprofessional behavior. So you have duty, right? You are a community. So if a professional is doing that, what is that teaching other students in that area? So they want these things to be regulated, really well regulated. So even if you're just a volunteer, you're saying, "Oh, I'm just giving my free time," but they have a standards, right? You cannot go and scream at their people. Like I used to volunteer with a disabled person. I know that person has a special needs, but at the same time, I cannot. It's not that I'm gonna, oh, you didn't do this right, I'm gonna slap that person, because that is not ethically right.
indeed,
So
indeed.
it just like pretty much these things do matter. So yeah, your record, how you handle situations, how you respond in a situation, like if you're in a conflict, how would you get yourself out of that conflict? It pretty much all of that stuff matters. So sometimes, like they say here, 80% average. On the other hand, a person has 80% average. The person with 80% average is someone easygoing, or their behavior is not bossy. They said they can teach that person. But on the other hand, a person with the 90% average, they are bossy. They know everything. They don't want to learn anything new. Then they said it's better to teach someone. Skills you can teach. Attitude you cannot teach.
Oh wow. Okay. This is something excellent. I mean, I love the fact what you just said. I agree 100%. Yes.
So it's
Attitude cannot be taught.
80% person with 80% average. You can teach that person, but believe me, that's not gonna get anywhere.
Well said. Very well said. I think with such an excellent statement, we call it our day for the second video. Thank you so much for such wonderful information that you have given us. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from this. And thank you so much, as always.
Thank you. Thank you.